One that we didn't cover is the Boring Company. Now, the first time when I heard it, I thought it was a joke because I thought it was,
kind of was.
and I thought that it was some kind of, like how sometimes people open a company just to kind of handle their taxes or invest into
Or
something.
trademark an idea or
Yeah,
something.
or something like that. And I thought it was him doing something, but it was actually a company that was boring. Can you tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about that?
sure. This started as a tweet, a bit like how the Hyperloop idea did, and there's some overlap between this and the Hyperloop. But he was stuck in traffic, just the same as Hyperloop, and he's always been frustrated by the traffic in LA. And he was stuck in traffic, and he tweeted, "Stuck in traffic, so crazy. Gonna buy a boring machine and just start digging. Boring company. It's what we do." And everyone thought it was literally a joke, but then logos and hats and t-shirts started to appear, and a big pit appeared outside the SpaceX headquarters. and and sure enough, they had a boring machine and they started digging. And the idea with it is that he sees modern infrastructure, transport infrastructure, particularly in cities where you have high-rise buildings, as a two-dimensional transport network for a three-dimensional world, because you have buildings with many levels and you have lots of people congregating towards these three-dimensional structures on a two-dimensional grid network of roads, essentially, in most cases in the US, which struck him as a bit mad, and that you should be able to go three-dimensional with transport. And most people think of the future as having flying cars. That introduces probably a few more risks, because if your whatever method of levitation you're using fails, you're quite a risk to the people on the ground. So he thought, well, why not dig below and run tunnels underground? And if you design the tunnels well, they can support the stresses around themselves and not actually weaken the ground. So you could stack as many tunnels as you want three-dimensionally. So the thought was, create this network using the autonomous navigation technology that they were working on at Tesla, and have access to the surface from the tunnels at regular intervals. So you can pull into a parking space and your car simply descends underground and gets scooted along on these tunnels. It's taken a few years to get to a sort of implementable version of that, and I think at the moment it's more akin to, sort of public transport, almost rail-like implementations at the moment. But the key innovation in the company has been to dig faster than has typically been done, and to dig more economically, and to use the output of the digging, i.e. the material you're excavating, to create an economically useful product, in this case bricks.
Yeah. Let me stop you there before we go into
Sure.
the bricks. Like those drilling machines are huge. Like I've seen videos of that. They're like a building. They're tall like a
Yeah.
building, and they're like, where is he digging? Like, in which directions? Do you know where these tunnels exist right now?
Yeah.
And like, how does that whole scheme work?
So I don't have an exhaustive list, because it's actually not like the most exciting. It's a boring company. It's not the most exciting company that he runs,
It's a
but
whole ground.
yeah, exactly. But I do know that they have a test track, which I think is about 1 kilometer long, that started with that hole in the ground outside SpaceX. They have another test route beside one of the highways in LA that the city of LA paid for, as a kind of an exploration of the idea. And they have contracts with the city of, I think it's Washington or sorry, no, it's Washington DC, and the city of Chicago, to service O'Hare Airport with boring tunnels. In terms of the size of the machines, what they've done is they've realized that part of the issue is that classical boring machines have been too big. They're the whole physics of this is that the resistance that these machines encounter that slow them down is proportional to the size of the area that they're trying to bore through. So they've shrunk it down. So the tunnels are just big enough to encompass a car, something that people could stand up in, some kind of useful carriage. And so that in itself speeds things up. They've also worked on the cooling methods for the head of the machine, the way that the energy is brought to the machine. Again, leveraging Tesla technology, they're using battery technology instead of generators because classical boring machines have had to run on diesel generators. The exhaust from that then, you have to transport that out of the tunnel, or you can't have workers in there because they'll suffocate. So all of those small little logical problems that have been solved step by step are improving the efficiency of it. But to put it in perspective, they stated early on that their aim was for the boring machine to be able to beat a snail in a race. That would be a massive improvement. They had a pet snail to illustrate this. But yeah, I mean, as you may expect from an Elon Musk company, there was a bit of whimsy involved as well to get the publicity up there. He started selling hats, and in a reference to Spaceballs, classic Mel Brooks film, he says, once we sell 20,000 hats, it'll be the Boring Company, the flamethrower. And he followed through on that. So you've probably seen the Boring Company flamethrower. And that's probably more visible than anything else the company has done.
Yes. That, and from a collector's perspective, is the tequila, but we'll do a special episode on miscellaneous items from Tesla. Sure. But how does the bricks concept works? So he, as a byproduct from the dirt that he digs out, he creates bricks.
Yeah. So the idea, I don't know if it's actually in practice yet, but the idea is that as the machine excavates the tunnel, typically, again, probably powered by internal combustion, classical boring operations would have all of this material just excavated and put in a slag pile outside. And the transport of that material would probably have run on internal combustion engines. So again, creating a toxic environment for workers, et cetera, et cetera. What the idea with their concept is that the material is processed in the back end of the machine. So you've got the boring face, it's sucking or grinding the material out of the ground, and then that pulverized earth is then compressed and compacted, and some of it is used by the machine to actually lay support into the walls of the tunnel as it goes. So it's kind of jigsawing together the tunnel walls as it's digging. And then the excess, because obviously you have a larger volume than you would need to do that, is compressed down into these Lego-like bricks that can be sold off as building blocks.
Nice.
Low-cost housing and that kind of thing.
I heard that he was giving them out at one point there around the area where he started digging, but I don't know what he's doing with them now. Is he still giving them away, or is he selling them?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's any actual active boring going on at the moment. Again, not a company I follow too closely, but yeah, the initial test tunnel that they did, I don't know if it was the one at SpaceX or the other one in LA near the freeway, but it was in a fairly economically disadvantaged area.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see the full version, go to the Uncle Gold Podcast YouTube channel or watch the next clip.